Hello guys, Dan here from Dan's Tech. My review of the QPad DX20 has been quite a while, so today I've decided to film a good old Q&A video, and then in 2-3 days we'll be releasing the review of this mouse. Might even be a day or two since all the script and all that stuff is already done. So yeah, we're going to be answering all the questions that you guys posted in the last Q&A video. I usually do take a few from many other videos, but I've got quite a few on the last Q&A, so yeah, we're going to be doing all the questions from that. So I'm just going to grab my phone and let's go on to some of these questions. First question is from Blizzardmate. Is Crysis 3 badly optimised or is it just very demanding? Now I've had this conversation with quite a few people before, believe it or not, and I've just concluded that it's kind of both. All games can be optimised more, it's just that it takes developers so long that they don't really bother, and you know, optimising, because you're technically paying a developer to optimise a game, game studios are paying more money to do that, and in the long run, because they're really optimising or essentially focusing on a certain console or certain specifications of a computer, it just takes a really long time. So it is not badly optimised, but it can be more optimised. All games can be more optimised, and in terms of it being very demanding, it is a very nice looking game, so that's probably why it does take some beefy graphic cards to run on the higher settings. That's kind of why lately it's become a staple benchmark, even for all these new graphic cards that do come out today. So next question is from Ace Brit. Hi Dan, I'm a gamer on a budget and want to upgrade my GPU, currently a GTX 770, my old graphic card, and I want to get either a second-hand GTX 970 or the new 1060, and was wondering if there's a big difference between the two. Could you please help? Now I've reviewed a 1060, I have looked at a 970 before, that was a very long time ago, so I'm not too sure how the 970 and 1060 perform, but I would recommend you to just go on the good old internet and just Google just a comparison between the cards. The 1060 is newer, so technically you are going to be getting a card which is more power efficient, and in general it's probably going to be a lot quieter and cool running as well. But if you can get a 970 on the cheap, then feel free, go for that over the 960. It will consume more power, but you'll probably be getting a lot more frames for your money, and yes, as I've said, it'll probably be pulling more watts from the wall, but I suppose that's not really a big deal. So just overall, kind of go for whichever one you can really find on the cheap if you are indeed on a budget. Next question is from Carl Gaff. What is the process of keeping all the components but swapping out to a different motherboard? I've heard that it's not as easy as swapping out, say, a GPU. There is a few things that you need to do. Now, when you do swap out a motherboard, one thing you've got to do, or one thing that I think everybody here on the internet, and everyone kind of in the tech community suggests, is to reinstall your operating system. Now when you do get a new motherboard, you will need a new license key, and that's why a lot of people don't tend to upgrade just the motherboard, and if they're upgrading their motherboard, they're just going to be upgrading the full system. You are right in terms of upgrading a GPU or even your CPU or even your RAM. You can just take one out, put another one in, turn your PC on, and you literally don't need to do anything. In terms of a GPU, you will need to install graphic drivers, but that's to be expected. But yeah, if you wanted to change your motherboard, not change any of the other components, it is going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, and I personally would not recommend it. If your motherboard has just died for some strange reason, getting the same exact motherboard should do you just fine, and therefore you won't need to change your actual OS installation, because the board's the same. That's my understanding anyway. So yeah, it can be a little bit complex upgrading your motherboard, since you do need to reinstall your OS, get a new product key, which requires spending a bit of dosh, and then yes, installing all your drivers again, which isn't exactly an easy thing to do. Well, it is easy, it just takes a long time and a bit of just a pain in general. Now, next question is from Smithy318i. Hi Dan, is it worth upgrading to a new CPU and motherboard? I have the X58A-UD7 and a 980X CPU, 6-core, and a 980 Ti. Nice. The computer still plays games at still plays the latest games at 5760 by 1080 at reasonable frame rates, but it pulls 490 watts from the wall when playing games. Now, for me, taking a look at the very new 1060 and 1070, and even the 470 from AMD, I can say that all these cards are very power efficient, and especially the 1060, it's pulling about 230 watts on my review, and that was the full system. So we're talking i7, 2 hard drives, 16 gigs of RAM, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you're really worried about the power draw of your current system, I would recommend selling your 980 and probably buying something like a 1080 or a 1070. I'm not sure if the 1070 is kind of on par with the 980 Ti, or probably even a little bit faster, but you will significantly reduce your power draw. Now, I'm not too sure on your 980X CPU, if that's an Intel one or an AMD one. I'm not very familiar with that naming in general. But if it's an old one, it probably will pull a lot of power, and it's probably not going to be very powerful these days, even though it is a 6-core. A lot of new processors now do prioritize efficiency and also very high clock rates. Even though many CPUs these days are still quad cores, it's been proven that high clock rate quad cores are better than CPUs with more cores, especially for gaming. For stuff like productivity, it really a lot of cores do matter. And say with my system with an i7 4790K, 4 cores, 8 threads. Them 8 threads are brilliant for video editing, and it really does reduce render time, which is the final export. And yeah, it's one of the main reasons I have an i7 over an i3, just because it's just far better for video editing and exporting. But yeah, I would recommend just changing out your full system, really, if you really do want just a new computer and maybe want a lot of your power draw issues to go away. But yeah, overall, you do have a nice system. If you're not that worried about the power draw, just keep your system as it is, wait another year or two, then maybe upgrade. But it's up to you. How much money do you have, and do you really want to upgrade now? Just something you've got to really ask yourself. So just had to cut the camera there, good old DSLR limits. So what would you suggest for a low profile CPU cooler with a height limit? Well, the height limit in the case is 58mm. I have plans to buy an i5 6600K or an i7 6700K, and I want to overclock it just a slight bit to get more performance or extra performance. That question was from Mark Anthony Regala. Now, I've took a look at many CPU coolers this year, many CPU coolers. I've even had people poke fun saying I should rename my channel to like, I don't know, the CPU cooler review guy, who knows it. But in terms of low profile coolers, I have checked out quite a few from Noctua. I've also took a look at some from Reven. I did check out their Reven stirrups. I think that one would actually fit your case, actually. Or was that 60mm? I'm not sure. One thing I would recommend you to do is to just go onto my channel, type in CPU cooler in the good old search term, and it'll bring up a lot of videos where I've reviewed a lot of CPU coolers, and just pick out the low profile ones. All of the low profile coolers that I've checked out this year have been absolutely fantastic, and there's no real reason why I couldn't recommend them. Yeah, so just have a look. I personally, just some memory of some good ones. Reven stirrups is a fantastic one. Might be a little bit hard to get that one if you do live in the UK. Many Noctua ones that I've had looked at, they're all brilliant. A lot of them as well are very small ones, so you really shouldn't have a problem using them ones. So yeah, just search up on the channel, CPU cooler. So next question is from Region Raman. Man, it's really fun to watch and learn from your videos, especially your Q&A series. I have a question though for your next Q&A episode. What is RAID 0? Why do we need to put our SSDs in RAID 0? And is it really important? And appreciate your hard work, man. Cheers. Now, RAID 1, I did do a video recently on how to put hard drives into RAID 1 or to RAID 0. And essentially, RAID 1, it halves your data. No, it doesn't halve your data, it clones your data. So that both your data is on both of the drives, so that if one drive fails, you do have all of your data still intact. And then what you're going to do if a drive fails, you remove the failed drive, you put a new one in, and then it'll rebuild. So essentially, you can never really lose data unless 2 hard drives fail at the same time, or your RAID controller just takes the shit, I suppose. So that's what RAID 1 is. It's all about backup. It's not a backup, it's kind of like they call it redundancy. There we are. When in RAID 1 as well, you might get increased read performance, but write performance should dip just a tiny bit, because it's because when you're writing data, it has got to do that writing to both drives, and chances are one hard drive is going to be slower than the other. Now, in terms of RAID 0 is all about cutting your data in half, or maybe into quarters, or even into many other pieces, and it's all about performance. So say if you've got 2 SSDs or 2 hard drives and you copy a file over to your RAID 0 array, them drives are going to take a small portion of that file. So say if you've got 2 SSDs and you copy, say, a 1 gig video file, 500 megabytes is going to go onto one drive and 500 megabytes is going to go onto another drive, meaning that in the case of 2 drives, that transfer is going to be done twice as fast, because it's only transferring technically half the file to each of them drives. And if you've got more and more drives, I know Lana's over at Lana's Tech Tips had a rig with 8 SSDs. I think it was 8 120 gig SSDs. He's asking that to fail, by the way, but he would get some very good performance while it's still alive, shall I say. But yeah, RAID 0 is all about performance, but if one of them drives does fail, and say in Lannister's case, if one of them 8 SSDs fails, he loses all of his data. So it's not really preferred to do that, especially for your main drive, like, you know, you install your OS, but it's all about speed. And if you really like speed, and say if you got, say, 2 hard drives laying around which you can put in RAID 0, say for, say, your Origin games, your Steam games, do that. Because let's face it, if they fail, you can always re-download them, since, you know, they're exactly important data, rather. You can download them again from good old Steam or Origin. So there we are. Hope that answers your question. The next question is from Wolfie Bigtail. Hi Dan, thanks for featuring my question. I was wondering what 1060 I should buy, since there's a lot of them out there. There is. I'm trying to get one under about £300 that looks decent too. Now, I've reviewed many 1060s recently. I've reviewed quite a few actually. I've also got one being sent over by MSI very, very soon. Pretty excited about that. But in terms of ones I would recommend, they're all very, very good, to be honest. The more money you're paying, you're technically getting a, well, what you're getting by spending more money is a better cooler, which might perform a little bit better in terms of thermals or noise, who knows, and you're probably getting a chip which performs better in terms of the clock speed as well. So the more money you're paying, you're going to get a better graphic card overall, but there's nothing wrong with kind of like the cheaper cards. So if you buy a really, really cheap 1060, it's not necessarily going to be that bad, to be honest. You're still getting the chip. The 1060 is very, very powerful, by the way, for its actual cost. And yeah, so I would personally recommend the Zotac 1060. That would be the most recent review I did. From all the ones I've looked at, that card is by far the quietest, and it does run the fastest. It is the most expensive, but I think still it should be under your £300 budget. So that's one I would recommend. It does look very, very good, performs well, it's very, very quiet, and it does stay cool as well, which is fantastic. I did like the way that they used metal on that card. Yeah, there we are. That's it. That's oh no, one more question. This wasn't really a question. This one's kind of a statement here from Gabe Gaming. Is it just me, or does this guy remind you of Syndicate? Now, I'm not sure if you're on about Syndicate from Manchester. It's Tom Castle, or Logan Hale from Tech Syndicate. If you're about Syndicate, Tom Castle from Manchester, he is also from England, like myself. So I suppose we do talk the same. We are both relatively young guys, so yeah, might remind you of him just because of that, but who knows. So I've got about 2 minutes left on this recording, so yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. If you guys have questions for this Q&A, do post them in the good old comment section below, and I will answer your question in a text reply or in a video response in the next Q&A I do. I'm not sure which Q&A this is now. This should be 22, the next one will be 23. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. If you want a question answering, put it in the comment section, and yeah, I should get back to you. So thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to like, comment, and also subscribe. Check out that good old social media and also the 2 other channels I do maintain here on YouTube. And yeah, without further ado, guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.